Um, I use a full screen now. I don't know whether you can see the whole full screen or just kind of part of it.
The full screen, doctor.
Okay, thank you. Right, so long time ago, we know that there's lots of back then in early 80s, early 90s, many deaths has occurred or mortality and morbidity is very high among infant and maternal. Okay, so basically we have learned in the earlier lectures, earlier weeks about how high infectious disease has caused deaths in infant, right? For example, they even expect like when they give birth to children, to infant, maybe they won't last long. The longest maybe 2 years, showing how bad the situation is. And then a part of infant mortality due to infectious disease towards early 1990s, we can also see some shift in terms of what caused the deaths for infant and maternal. So we also try to think, other than infectious disease, what are the causes that lead to infant death or morbidity in early, especially not maybe less nowadays, but more towards the early 19th centuries, I would say. You can try to guess, yeah? Okay, good. Sharifah has started in the chat box. Okay. So shaken baby syndrome, pregnancy complications. What else? That maybe lead to infant morbidity or even death. Poor antenatal care. Okay, lacking nutritional requirement. Okay, good, good. Organ defect, right? So what lead to organ defect? Um, if you can try to guess or if you know any of those things. By the way, I would like to emphasize, please complete your attendance, okay? Because I know there's many students have forgotten to do that. It's gonna give more works for you all towards the end of the semester later on to do report. Okay, so only 5% response. It's good that you are thinking about the baby, which is more like the care of the baby. Shaken baby syndrome, maybe towards how the mother's cares. Um, this is it happened, but not as a categorized as a public health issues. Like it's not like very common as make one of the main major cause of death. Pregnancy complication is true. Whatever complication during pregnancy, it can lead to death. Is not for infant. It is more towards termination of pregnancy or the death at birth. Okay, so that's different about the infant's death later on. It's more like exposure during the pregnancy. Poor antenatal is also the more exposure during pregnancy. Let's see your answer regarding the exposure during postnatal. Okay, so organ defect, I would say still maybe related to pregnancy, because for example, mother's lack of folic acid, it can lead to deformities, it can lead to many other things. Nutrition deficiency during pregnancy. So many of you try to think more towards pregnancy, but actually, if you, I think because you are thinking about the mothers as well. So if you are thinking about the infant per se, there's many cases of infant died or have illness due to nutrition. Yeah. Well, it's good that when you say lacking of nutrition requirement, it is true as well. But usually lacking of nutritional is more towards maybe low weight gains, more like toward the effect on the growth. But when we talk about death, usually something is harmful for the baby. Where what is obvious is, for example, without a proper education, awareness, and knowledge about infant nutrition, um, people end up giving different, all sort of things that is not breast milk to infants. Even some of them starting giving the solid food very early. So I know that dietetic students, maybe they know better because they have learned in like about infant nutrition. Maybe more biomedic students can answer. When do you think is the proper time to introduce solid foods? So we know baby should drink, should be highly encouraged to be breastfed, right? and also formula fed as an alternative. Of course, we support breastfeeding, but when likely is the suitable time to introduce solid food? Can you answer, please? I just want to know. What do you think? You can put in the chat. You can answer. Around. Okay. Okay. Right. How about is it okay to start around 7 months? Okay. Is it okay to start around 5 months? No answers? No? Okay. Right. So basically, the requirements by the WHO and in Ministry of Health is around 6 months. So the mother should start no later than 6 months. So usually at 6 months, mother should start giving solid foods. But based on scientific evidence, we can start giving solid food around 5 to 6 months when the baby shows some readiness. Okay, so I won't cover that one. It's not for this topic, but at least you get to know around 5 to 6 months is acceptable as long as both the mother and baby ready and the baby they are healthy and not preterm babies. So basically, it's okay, but the most important not later than 6 months. So not 1 year. Okay, it's good to know what you kind of thinking about this. Okay, so what I'm sharing the slide here, you can see even back then people advertise different sort of things, not just about introducing a food, even like for example here 7 ups which is even not good for children or for adults, and then they normalize for example normalize tobacco, not baby to smoke, but for like this, for example, like mom and dad, before you sold me mom, maybe you better light up Marlboro. Okay. That you always get the best of everything, even Marlboro. Okay, so here you can see the is make a norm for parents to smoke, and when parents smokes around it babies, near to the babies, this also give exposure of secondhand smoke, which is even more dangerous to babies. Okay, there's lots of other different kind of things, even they introduce so way early different kind of like syrup, like meat, something that is very not suitable for children as early as 2 months, 3 months. So these can lead to infant death. Okay? So other than infectious disease, all other sort of things can also lead to infant death. Okay, right. So that's basically I just want to cover about infant mortality. But the main things I want you all to really understand is the terms and the time. Okay. So we have stages of growth and development from preterm, newborn, infants, toddler, and so on. So preterm basically same with a newborn infant. It's just they give birth early than expected. So usually preterm is below 37 weeks of gestation. So what I 37 weeks, yes. And newborns is considered born at term, okay, or it can also be preterm, but the term newborn is within the first months, 0 to 28 days, or we can say the first month we can consider the baby is still newborn, and they are still infant, but they are still we call more like newborn, very new infant or neonates. Okay, and infant is basically around 1 month and also up to 12 months, so which is around the first year, and then the rest is toddlers, preschool children, and so on. So the terms here, when we talk about infant mortality, so you can see, anyway, it's okay. You can see my cursor, right? So you can see here, infant mortality covers from birth until 1 year, 365 days. So basically, the first year is considered infant mortality. But for if we talk about neonatal mortality, it's the first months. Okay, so it's basically cover what's the death among newborn infants, because they are more vulnerable, they are more high risk of die at that time. So we even have neonatal mortality. So when in public health, in epidemiology, when we talk about infant mortality, it can cover either neonatal or post-neonatal. But when we talk about neonatal per se, it's just basically newborn infants. So make sure you remember, even neonatal, we have early neonatal and late neonatal. But don't worry much about that. The most important is you know the neonatal term is the first month, whereas the infant mortality covers from neonates until the first year. Okay? And we have here infant mortality rates. Okay, so when we talk about rates, it's basically this ratio, infant mortality. Should be ratio, not rates. Okay, rates ratio is later on. So infant mortality rate is the number of deaths on infant under the age of 1, so which is the first year. When we talk about per 1,000 live births in the same years, is basically the rates. Okay, so number of deaths below 1 year old per number of live births. So all of infant deaths in the that die in the first years out of all the live births in the same period of that year. Okay, so infant mortality rate is perhaps the most commonly used measure for comparing health status among nations. So basically, among nations, we really like to compare infant mortality and maternal mortality rate, as they are good indicators to consider whether the country is considered as a um, ha- has well managed in terms of health infrastructure, socioeconomic status, and so on. So when a country wants to consider to be, for example, from developing to developed countries, or lower middle income to middle income countries, usually one of the main things to consider to to upgrade the country level is also the maternal mortality and infant mortality. So that's why they are very critical. Okay? There's example in 1999, infant mortality rates in Uganda 81 per 1,000, while Sweden 3.6 per 1,000. So you can see how much difference for developing or less developed country versus a very developed country. So 81 versus 3.6. So that's why I like to ask when you do the presentation later on, try, for example, try to be alert for each other's groups when you present in within one country. So for example, you are presenting about Chile and you are presenting about infant mortality rates or even like fertility, you can see straight away how much it has decreased over 30 years, showing the how we have improved that much in that particular country. So here Malawi is even high, it's 137, so high. Okay. So why infant mortality rates? Because it's a good indicator of overall health status, as I indicated just now, and that is a major determinant of life expectancy at birth as well. So you can determine that, for example, back then people even think when they have baby, especially in Europe countries, they think they can only live up to 2 years because the infectious disease is so high at that time. But that's why it is part of things when to consider about life expectancy. So this IMR is sensitive in terms of the socioeconomic condition of a population. So a good nation, a well-developed nation, tend to have a better care for both mother and infants. Just more information. So this is widely used for health status because it reflects the mother-infant pregnancy and year after. So basically, infant death is not just about infant death at that particular year. It reflects the whole process from pregnancy until the early growth of the children. Okay, because this is all the vulnerable stage for both mother and infants. The health of mother infants reflects wide variety of factors. Because we know if the mothers and infant they are healthy, low morbidity, low mortality, shows that in that country have a good prenatal care, postnatal care, maternal health behaviors is also good in terms of the mothers care themselves as well. For example, tobacco, alcohol use, proper nutrition, and so on, as well as other other care for the infant like immunizations, infection control, sanitation, and so on. Okay. So here is just the data of infant mortality rates for 1999. So in around 90s, we can see mortality rates very high in Africa and also high in South America, but it is very low in North America, which country is for North America? Which country in South America? I hope you know. Okay. So infant mortality deaths under 1 per 1,000 live births. So here they show another examples for male and female, and we have the world here somewhere here, which is around nearly to 50. 40 somethings, and then we can see there's also imbalance in terms of the deaths for male and females. And what is interesting, for India in China and China, the higher death rate is occurs among female than male. Okay, so India has higher mortality compared to other countries. Um, if you read through, there's actually so many articles showing there's also some issue about gender, where segregation or where they favoritism towards male boys compared to male babies or boys, baby boys compared to baby girls. And for example, like China, they have issue later on before that where they can only have one, like they have the policy of one children per family, and sometimes this even creates some tension where they want to have either boy and girl. And there's also some articles showing that there's some favoritism towards boys. But nowadays, China has already encouraged for them not. They have stopped the one child policy. Now they encourage the parents to have even two childs in a household. Okay, so here is global infant mortality as the whole world in 2017 by map. Okay, so that's why I like to show you some example of bar chart, some example of map, so you get familiar with the data, between continents, as well as to shows the map of the countries where which part of the world has a certain degree of high rates for mortality or morbidity. So get familiar with that. Okay, okay, here you can see again what country is this in the middle here. Did you figure out yesterday? Anyone? Not yet. Okay, so we can see still similar where Africa, yes, thank you. Africa has a higher infant mortality, as also as they have many issues. Okay, what do you think, why is even until current years Africa has high mortality rates? What do you think is factors that lead to mortality rates in Africa country? Okay, poverty, like nutrition. What else? Yep, they are low income countries, but why? What? Because we also have many low income countries in South America as well as in certain Asia. Okay, try to guess more. It's not wrong what you put here, but I want you all to try to think and put as much as what you think is possible. So this kind of discussion I like to put to make you think, and that's why in the exams, lots of question that make you think. Okay? It's not direct answers. Okay, keep on writing. So I will read one by one. So thank you, Fitri, to able to identify the country. Right. So we have poverty. Yes, it's true. But also other countries has poverty, but they have a very high rates of poverty. Lack of nutrition. Lack of nutrition is more true for older children, or children like toddlers, because they need more food. But for young infant, like for infant below 1 year, especially below 6 months, they can depend on actually breast milk, right? Breastfeeding. But of course, if breastfeeding rate is low, they couldn't able to afford to access to get formula milk, which actually when they access to formula milk, they give even high risk of infant death because sanitation. So we have here, some of you said hygiene issue is true. Diarrhea, if the children has diarrhea, they can, it's so high risk because they will lose lots of water and it can lead to death. Limit water access is also true, what Fadlina said, because in some parts of the African, the woman are usually the one that has to carry, the whole big, what we call it, hold big things on their heads, and to walk for like long, have a long walk just to get water. Yeah. Low antenatal care is true as well, not just antenatal, also postnatal care. To access for the healthcare facilities is far away as well. It's a challenge for the mothers to even go to get checkup from doctors, and also low numbers of health professionals, lack of educations. Okay, but not all African countries. Okay, please be aware. Don't try to think like, oh, Africa is so bad, and whatever Africa, you try to think all these bad things. They still have certain really good African, really good countries in Africa, and even South Africa is very well developed, and Rwanda is really good now. Okay, but actually, if we take into the continents, we have many issues in South Africa. Sorry, in Africa. Okay, right. Okay, thank you for your answer. Basically, all your answer are correct. It leads to morbidity and mortality. Okay, so which country has a very high rate of infant mortality? Let's have a look. So we have the top five here. This is 2017. Not much different than now. Then to 2024. Sorry, 2022. More advanced. Okay, we have Afghanistan, Somalia. And the thing that you didn't say here is actually conflict and war. Is also lead to infant deaths. I think you don't mention here. Yeah, conflict and war. So we have Afghanistan, Somalia, African Republic, Guinea-Bissau, Chad, Niger. So many in African countries. Some I don't even also familiar that much as well. Sierra Leone, Angola, Mozambique, and so on. And then we've got this is the high rates, okay? And Malaysia is around 115. So we have to work more in terms of this. But actually, the rates become lower and lower and lower year by year. So that's why even in, for example, like in Malaysia, if we have case of infant mortality or maternal mortality, even one case, whatever case it is, usually the investigation will be very thorough to check starting from pregnancy until death, either postnatal or at birth. What happened? What did doctor miss? What did the mother miss? What have been, why this thing happens? Because we don't want to have the high rates, or we really want to we really aim to get very low rates of infant mortality and maternal mortality, because it really indicates our health status, the national health status as well as the country status. So that's why whatever countries, this is very important indicators. But in general, throughout the whole world, usually the infant mortality rates really decrease from time to time, because we are advancing into better healthcare facilities and better socioeconomic status. So let's see in Malaysia. These I'm just shows the data from DOSM. Although they are not focused for infant per se, they also have, for example, what lead the main cause, principal cause of death by age groups. Okay, you can see here transport accidents in the first 14 years, and then adolescents still transport accidents. You have seen yesterday, right? And then heart disease in older people. But among infants, the main cause actually it leads starting from pregnancy. So we can see here the data 2020, 2019, a certain condition originating in the perinatal period. So that's why we really don't really talk about infant per se. We always talk about mother and infant. They are closely related. Anything that occurs to the mothers can also give risk to infant. Yeah. So this basically happen for the mothers during gestation, lead to infant death. Okay. Congenital malformation. This also mostly due to pregnancy, during the anything happen during pregnancy, and what occurs as the outcome of birth is infant with congenital malformations. Pneumonia is more like infection after birth. Cerebrovascular also happen to be related to pregnancy. Disease of the liver, it can be both, especially related to pregnancy as well. So that's why in maternal mortality and infant mortality or morbidity both are very critical. So now it leads to, we talk about mothers. Yeah, we are done with infants. So basically, you have to know about infant mortality rates, number of infant deaths out of number of live birth. Okay. So always remember all of this calculation. What is the upper level? What is the lower level? Okay. So let's move on to maternal. No woman should die while bringing life into the world. Yeah, it is true. So here I'm sharing trends first. in estimate of maternal mortality ratios, Asian and Sri Lanka. So in Malaysia, we are still considered low compared to many Asian countries. Okay? Of course, Singapore has the lowest, and Brunei also very low. Then we can see some of Southeast Asia is very high: Cambodia, Indonesia, Philippines, Myanmar. So their public health issue really focused for mothers and infants. But what you can see the trend of reduction, reduce in terms of the number of maternal mortality. So from 79 to 40 within 10, 15 years. Yeah. So almost all country has a reduction. So we can see Cambodia from 1,261. Okay. So Singapore not much different because they have kind of established. But basically almost all countries show a huge reduction, gradual and still huge reduction. Okay, so what is the definition of maternal mortality? So it's maternal deaths. Okay, death of a woman. So you have to remember this criteria. What's the description when we want to consider this is maternal mortality? So for infant mortality, you have to understand the term of the ages. Yeah. For maternal is term of the criteria. So either the mother die while pregnant, or the mother die within 42 days termination of pregnancy. Termination of pregnancy is also termed as miscarriage. Is whatever that terminate the pregnancy. Not necessarily the mother has to give birth, but terminate the pregnancy. Okay? While pregnant, within 42 days of termination of pregnancy, irrespective of the duration or site of the pregnancy. So regardless whether the mother pregnant up to 9 months or up to 3 months, so within 42 days after the end of pregnancy. Okay? From any cause related to or aggravated by the pregnancy or its management. So related to pregnancy issues, but not from accidental cause. For example, mother died from accidents. Okay, so this is not considered maternal mortality. It's more like died due to accidents. So in this case, if the mother dies because the mother wants to give birth and she's driving, so it's related to pregnancy, still we can consider maternal mortality. So meaning that why this thing of happens, which is related to the pregnancy issues that lead to death. Okay. So saving mother's life, you can see 1990 to 2013 how much difference the be able to save mother. I mean, with the better public health policy, healthcare services, and so on. Now many mothers able to be have a low risk of death. Okay. Example here, one in 2,300 in Europe. Another one in 40. Lifetime risk of dying during pregnancy. And you have to understand what does it mean by lifetime risk. I'll explain later on. Okay. So what is the indicators here? So there are two main indicators. Maternal mortality ratio. So here comes more indicators. And maternal mortality rates. So two different things, ratio and rates. So always remember, usually when we talk about rates, the denominator is the one is regarding for the total outcome of the populations. So for example, just now about baby is the total life birth. Okay. About crude death rates is rates, right? It's a total population. Okay. So when we talk about ratio, it's more like two different kind of separate entity. So here you can see what is ratio. So ratio here, maternal deaths and live births. So basically the number of mothers deaths and the number of baby they're able to live after birth. Okay, live birth. Okay. So number of women who die as a result of complication of pregnancy or childbearing. So not necessarily due to complication pregnancy, as well as at birth. Okay. Given a year per 100,000 live births in that year. So out of all the live births that baby able to give birth safely, how many mothers died out of live births? Okay. And that's ratio because we want to know the ratio of deaths, mother's deaths over the live births. So here the number of maternal deaths per 100,000 live births is a major risk of death once a woman has become pregnant. Okay. Example, there is a town which we have 1,000 people. 11 women in the town become pregnant. Okay. One baby miscarries. 10 women give birth to 10 live births. So we know one miscarries, So we only have 10 live births, not 11 anymore. So one of the women who give birth dies due to complications. So 1 out of 10, not 1 out of 11, because we don't consider like miscarriage is part of the denominator. Again, same, you can see in the map we have same pattern with infant mortality. Here the mortality ratio, because it's mothers and live births. Okay, so we can see it's darker color in the African continents, showing high rates of live mothers, either mothers mothers death or infant death, and the ratio here. So how about rates? We have the number of women who die as a result of complication of pregnancy. Same things for the upper layers, the upper level, which is the maternal deaths basically. But the denominator uh, is the populations, which is the woman aged 15 to 49. Okay, so the numerator is the number of the mothers out of all the populations among women who can give birth, who can be pregnant. So here we call childbearing age woman. So any woman that has already able to conceive and pregnant and give birth, the whole population of this is considered as the denominator. So number of deaths out of women aged 15 to 49. Okay. So that is rates. When we call rates, it's basically same groups, which is still the women's. Like ratio just now is the mothers and live births. But for mortality rates is the death of the mothers and the number of the mothers or mothers to be, or uh, any woman that can be a mother. Okay? So in a town which has 1,000 people, 500 are women. Okay, so 500 are women, 400 are women of reproductive age. Because we can also have women that are not productive anymore, which is elderly. They are already menopause and they will not able to conceive or reproduce. Okay, so we have 400 here in this town. Last year, 10 women gave birth to 10 live babies. One of the women died due to complication. So basically, the maternal mortality rate is 1 out of these 400, not 500. So you have to consider the age group, which is the productive age or the childbearing age. So why do you think is the main cause? So just now I asked about the main cause of infant mortality. Why do you think the main cause of maternal death during pregnancy? So for infant is easier, you can say whatever happened to the mothers. But how about the mothers themselves? What lead to the maternal death? Complication during birth, okay. Excessive bleeding, okay. So more during birth, okay. Right. Hygiene, yep, okay. Good. Pulmonary embolism, that's true. So basically more towards yeah, the earlier answer is what happened during birth, but also many other conditions during the pregnancy itself, during the gestation. So good. Okay, thank you. Good answers. So which is the main thing is basically here is the data in 2014. The higher risk is pre-existing medical conditions. So that's why when we talk about mothers now, we also talk about as adult, especially for women per se, it's really good to have a good, health status before the woman want to, get pregnant. Once the woman get pregnant, if the woman has certain conditions, it can be considered as high risk pregnancy or low or middle risk pregnancy or even low risk pregnancy if the woman a healthy woman and started to get pregnant. Okay. So pre-existing medical conditions, for example, diabetes, malaria, HIV, obesity. Even obesity has become one of the list here. Okay. Severe bleeding, basically during pregnancy, but mostly as well during labor. Okay, pregnancy-induced high blood pressure, infection, and so on. Just here more data about what factors that lead to. So here is more like toward the main reason of, I would say, cause of death. But here is factors that lead to cause of death. Okay, early marriages, So this happened in many less developed countries, in many African countries, as well as in certain part in Asia, like Mongolia. What else? Where they have issues of very early marriages, okay, high fertility, teenage pregnancy, yes, early, as well as teenage pregnancy, unwanted illegal illegal happen because it's illegal. They do it non-medically, actually, non-medical legal. Unsafe pregnancy and also unsafe abortion here. Unsafe deliveries, care after deliveries. So whatever care is still very crucial for mothers after birth. Also other things that lead to these factors. Okay. And then when you talk, you know what factors, we just want to know the rates or the numbers. I'm just showing the trend in pregnancy related mortality. So the pregnancy related mortality is seems to be high in terms of related. It's not so showing that something to do with pregnancy issue. And sometimes when we talk about data, towards the advancement of technology and everything, we have more data to know what are related towards pregnancy. Okay, and here is the cause of pregnancy related death. Okay, in the US, cardiovascular disease, infection, and the rest, but I want to show the world. So here is the maternal morbidities, okay, not mortality but morbidity and risk factor, because this leads to mothers mortality, maternal mortality. So we have here by age, actually. So if the mothers, older mothers tend to have higher risk with morbidity that lead to mortality. For example, here the light pink color is the diabetes. Older mothers tend easily to get higher risk of getting diabetes as well. And also hypertension. Yeah, everything is increased as the mother's age increase. And here is the data by continents, okay, where you can see sub-Saharan Africa, so many of African countries affected more. But it's good to see the number decrease, okay, from 1990 to 2015. The darker color to light color, we can see all countries, all continents has decreased uh, in terms of maternal mortality ratio. Here is the ratio. Okay. How about in Malaysia? What is the cause of maternal deaths? So we have here mostly obstetric embolisms, postpartum hemorrhage, and then the rest is all related to pregnancy issues mostly. Yeah. So gestational diabetes, ectopic pregnancy, yeah, eclampsia. Okay. So meaning that the mother's health status is very important. So the last one is about the lifetime risk. So you learn about maternal mortality rates, maternal mortality ratios, and one of the other indicators when you want to know about the health status, the probability of die or survive is also based on the lifetime risk of maternal death. Here, you won't really need to understand how to calculate this. But if you see the data, the reports, basically at least you are alert. When we talk about lifetime risk, it's related to a mother's and childbearing age woman. So the risk of individual woman dying from pregnancy or childbirth during her reproductive lifetime. Okay, so when a woman can reproduce, what is the risk? Okay, so this take into account the probability of becoming pregnant and probability of dying. So we know about the probability of a woman to become pregnant and dying in that particular country, and the data usually like this. Okay, so 1 in 16 risk of death, 1 in 65 in Asia. So it's less. So we know in Africa it's very high. Every 16 mothers, there's one mother has a high risk of death. Okay, one death occurs in 16 mothers, and it's very large, far apart in terms of comparison between developing countries and developed countries. You can see here 1 in 48 versus 1 in 1800. So, if you want to do further reading, you can refer to these two. I think I provided two links here from CDC and another journal, I guess, about the infant and mortality ratio to learn more and get more explanations. Okay? Right. So, I think that's all. Thank you for your attention. Do you have any questions? I wish to do one more session for group presentation. Boleh ya? Okay, so for next week is a Monday public holiday. I don't know whether I'm going to do recording for you to watch later on, or we have to do a replacement class. I will inform back later on about that. Before I forgot, also the week after that, which is week 23rd May, okay, uh, that is when Dr. Eliane will start giving her lecture on infectious disease. And I think, based from my understanding, she would like to do face-to-face at that time for Monday class. And later on after that, I also plan to do face-to-face towards the end of the semester, okay? Just a head up for you all. Okay, so can we have group, maybe group dietetics for Chile? I want to hear the presentation in 1980s first, and then we go for 2020. Okay, so 1 or 2% is educate just to present and share, and the rest can just help to answer the questions. We just have another like 15 minutes less. Can we just a quick share to compare between countries?
Okay, can start, right?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so hi, Dr. Usna and everyone. Today, group 4,
I cannot hear. Is it my internet or your internet?
I'll
Hello.
pass to Anis.
Okay, I can't hear just now. I think my internet is problem. Oh, it's not mine. It's Sarah internet.
I will continue. For life expectancy is 69.03. Next, I'll pass to Anis.
Uh, so next, I'll continue for life expectancy for Chile in 1980 is 69. And for the population pyramid, the total population of Chile in 1980s is 11 millions, with quite balance of female and male throughout the year. And for the SARS-CoV virus cases, the highest date is on 9 April, with 9,151 cases. This is actually the first time Chile have reached 9,000 within the 2020 and 2021. During this time, this is when the government actually was rolling out the COVID vaccine rapidly. But however, the case still increased. This is due to the more virulent strains of the virus, a relaxation of public health measure, increased mobility, and different simple precautions of the citizens in Chile. So, random facts. Chile is the world most powerful earthquake happened in Chile on 22 May in 1960 near Valdivia. And former fact, Chile is the world largest copper producing country. Chile houses the world largest copper mine. So that's all from Group 4.
Thank you, Anis. Anis, do you know the scalar richter of the earthquake in 1960? Or not just Anis, anyone? Can you please find out? I'm curious to know the most powerful earthquake happened and what is the scalar richter. Can anyone just figure out now and just share later on? Okay, thank you to group 4. So about the, also anyone can answer from group 4. So the COVID-19 cases, when was it? I can't remember. Is it April is the highest? Okay, April is the highest. Okay. Okay, thank you, Joey. It's a 9.4. It's very high then. It's very, very high. Okay, so okay, it's good we can see here. Well, we can discuss more after we see the comparison here. So the group 2020, group 3, can you present first? And then we can do a bit of discussion among you all.
Yes, doctor. Good morning, doctor. So we are from group 3 presenting about Chile about 2020. So first we can see that because the sequence is not standardized, so I put numbering here. So number 1 is the population in million. So it's about 19.12 million. So compared to last 1980, it's about 1142 million, so it's increasing. Then we move to number 2 is median age 35.3 years. So this is also compare higher than 1980, which is 22.9. Okay, so number 3 is fertility rate is 1.63 birth per woman. So actually this is a very high relationship between the infant mortality that we will discuss later. Life expectancy is 80.33, where 1980 is 69.03, so it's increasing. So why here the fertility rate? I provide a chart here. This chart actually doctor can zoom in to see more clearer lah. It's decreasing drastically. So based on the research article I read, this is because the fertility rate declined because of the woman education becoming stronger in Chile, so that they know how to higher education level can predict a delay in marriage and better knowledge of contraceptive method. So this why their fertility rate decreasing. So number 5 is the infant mortality. So this infant mortality also increasing, was 6.389 death per 1,000 live births. So in the research also mentioned that because due to the infant mortality rate are increasing, so that the woman and also the family planning also influence the fertility rate. So they plan to not have the children in their planning. So this is why they scared about the incident will happen. So number 6 is the population pyramid. So the population pyramid, it is higher in the 35.3 years lah. So it's is bigger in middle. Yeah. So number 7 is the latest state of COVID-19 is increasing, and because of the intervention of the government Chile, the cases rise drastically and also drop drastically. So this is about because of the intervention applied. So now the fun fact is Chile has the world's second biggest swimming pool situated at San Alfonso de Mar Resort. The pool stretches the length of 20 Olympic-sized swimming pools. So this is a traditional dance that remains the quartering ritual of a rooster and a hen. In this dance, participants always use a handkerchief which they throw in their right hands at the beginning. So this is the cultural of Chile that we can compare with our Malaysia traditional dance also. So now we are already done presenting for this 2020 of Chile. Thank you, Doctor.
So thank you very much for your presentations. So yeah, can you dance like them? Have you practiced?
No, Doctor.
Handkerchief and then you do like them. Okay, thank you for very well explained. You're not just presenting the numbers, you try to get some data behind that, like what lead to that numbers. So well done on that. Thank you very much. And also we can see some comparison for both groups. Sorry, Chile 2020 and 1980s. So what is the most drastic difference? Trend of changes that you can see here?
Actually, it's the population in million, because it is really related to the fertility rate, because the population did not increase and the age of the population will increase with year, so there are no young population coming in the Chile population. So this is a very worrying situation.
So I like when you try to relate both the fertility and mortality and also the number of life births, the number of births. Okay, that's good. And in terms of population pyramids, sorry, this one. Yeah, so we can see shifted. So basically, most developing countries usually they started something like this. Remember yesterday in Saudi Arabia, and also as time goes on, they tend to be this because the fertility rates decrease. So whatever when you have the data of fertility rate decrease, we get a slimmer and slimmer population pyramids. And if the older generation live longer, so we can see it's larger at the upper layer, but not like this one. So remember, like Japan, they have more older population and very low fertility rates or infant birth rates. So that's really can affect the way the population pyramid shapes. Okay. And then, so COVID-19 in 2020, the highest number, what is the highest number here? Can't really see, very small. Amira said something to do with the nationwide program and vaccination, but what is the highest number 2020? Around? Is it higher than 2021?
Doctor, for 2020, the highest case was on December 20, which is 500,085 cases in a
100,000?
day. Sorry?
500,000?
Yeah, but it's stated here. Yes, 500,000.
Wow, seriously? In a
It is
day?
based on the world meter info for
Okay.
coronavirus. So yeah,
500,000 is pretty high, right?
yeah,
Um,
because it started from the first day that is on 3rd of March, which is one cases only. That was actually imported by Southeast Asia, and then the cases started to rise until 2022, May 2022.
I think 500,000 is accumulated number.
Yeah, accumulated.
That's why. How about the highest number on that particular day, the incidents? So that
Oh,
was more like prevalence.
I mean, Doktor maksudkan daily new cases ke?
The highest cases, which day and what number is the highest cases? For example, like in Malaysia, the
Oh,
highest is 33,000. Sometimes in March kan this year.
okay. For Chile, the highest daily new cases is on June 14, which is 8,122.
Oh, okay, not bad, not bad. 8,000. So meaning that the one that another group present, group four said something like 11,000 here, right? 9,000. Sorry, 9,000. So the next year is also high 9,000. So basically, what do you think is the main difference in terms of the COVID-19 measures in 2020 versus 2021? We have different wave here, as you can see. What makes it lower in 2020 and then what makes it spike and lower in 2021? Anyone?
Because in the 1980 is a new outbreak, so it's something like epidemic, so it will have very high in the case, but for the 2020 like it already become an endemic, so it will lower the cases. Yeah.
right? So basically, in early phase 2020 is where the whole world is experiencing the same. We don't have any, mask, like SOP of, physical distancing, wearing masks, and so on, and no lockdown. So that's why once a case occurs, it can easily spread very fast. But then it goes down very fast when they did the good lockdown, strict lockdown. But later on, the year 2021, as your friend said, Joey said here, new variant is also true, as well as many countries start to do some relaxing, right? Relax the measures, and it spiked back again. And also, I think in this phase, when it comes back to around winter season, especially in some other countries, I'm not really sure Chile. Chile is South America, but around that time where people still travels, it's increased back again. But basically, one of the main thing is because of the Delta variant here. Okay, it's very infectious, but Omicron is more infectious but less virulent. Less, you will learn more with Dr. Lenny about that, virulent and contagious. Okay, so I think that's all. By the way, what is the first largest swimming pool? They have the second largest. So the first one, where? Which country? Anyone knows? It is interesting fact. Thank you. No idea. Why not you figure out? I want to know. I'm now curious. Which country has the biggest swimming pool after? It comes after Chile. All right, that's all for today's session. We'll continue. I'll give announcement later on about how the Monday session will be, either recording or replacement class. And maybe I'll see you again in Tuesday class next week. And after that, Dr. Eliani will take over. Okay, so we'll do more presentation in Tuesday or replacement class if we have. Okay, right. That's all from me. Have a good day. Selamat pergi kelas. I think you have a whole other classes for today's session. Okay. Take care. Assalamualaikum and good day.
Thank you, Doctor.
Thank you,
Bye-bye.
Doctor.
Good night.